Hi, we're here with Gina Cook, who's a partner at the Business Advisory Services at BDO. Hi, Gina. Thanks for joining us. Can you start by explaining to us advisory service? What do BDO do, and what's your role in that?
So BDO is a full-service chartered accounting firm. So we have tax advisory, business advisory, which is what I do. And that's the easiest way I explain that to most people is we look after all of a business's needs around accounting and tax returns, any advice that they may need around the running of their business, so cash flow forecasting, helping them get funding from the bank, that type of thing.
Okay, so you're a fundamental partner of people in small business. That sounds to me like, you know, you do the foundational stuff, you know, the major stuff. Okay, I've got a list of questions that have been shared with me from business owners who obviously at this really challenging time are under pressure. So if it's okay with you, I'll go through the questions and let's see if we can support a few people and try and find some clarity at a time when it's, you know, everybody's under pressure. Okay, so here's the first one. I'm a small business employing less than 20 people. What relief can the government provide for me now?
Right, well, there's obviously quite a lot of relief that the government have come out with over the past week. Probably the most topical one, which people are already applying for or aware of, are the wage and leave subsidies, which I believe you've got a link to on your website. If people aren't aware of where they can apply for that, it's on the Work and Income website as well, or I'm sure if you just Googled it, it would come up. That's probably the key one right now. For a lot of commercial property owners around, there's quite a nice welcome change coming through with a change to, or bringing back depreciation on commercial buildings, which, you know, if you are a commercial building owner, that can actually add up to quite significant depreciation claims, which obviously has a flow-on effect for tax. If you're not, you know, au fait with how the tax world works, and I'm quite well aware there are a lot of people that don't even want to know how the tax world works.
I'd be one.
And in order to be a provisional taxpayer, you need to have what we call terminal tax of more than $2,500 for the year. Okay. Now that threshold is being increased to $5,000. So while that's probably not going to be a huge jump in the threshold for a lot of people, for those very small, maybe sole traders or smaller businesses around, that's actually going to be a welcome relief for them, because it means that they will not then have to pay provisional tax, and provisional tax being you need to pay tax in advance of what you think your year-end tax liability will be. So it's basically deferring the payment of tax until after you know what your actual tax liability will be for the year, and you basically get another year's deferral. And you know, the other aspect as well, with what the IRD will be doing to support businesses through is, you know, if you can't afford to pay GST next month, or you can't afford to pay your PAYE, again, don't bury your head in the sand. You know, talk to your accountant, or just pick up the phone to the IRD and say, look, I can't pay right now, I need to enter into an instalment arrangement. So the IRD are very open to this. They always have been, but I think a lot of businesses have been very scared about talking to IRD. But you know, they will help businesses through, but at the same time, you can't expect that to say, actually, I don't want to pay my GST at all, and say to the IRD, I don't want to pay you for the next 6 months. That's not how it works. It's about knowing or understanding how much can I pay this month, how much can I pay next month, and the month after that, and actually arranging in advance with the IRD to spread those payments out. We have a rule called a low value asset. So currently you can expense an asset if it costs less than $500. You can expense that straight away rather than having to capitalise it as an asset onto your balance sheet. Now they've they've changed that rule for the next year, where they will let anything less than $5,000 be expensed straight away. And ongoing after the year after that, it will drop down to $1,000.
So give me an example. So if I'm a small business owner, what exactly would that likely to be related to?
So what they're trying to encourage is people to keep spending on things that they need to spend within their business. Obviously, we need to be very careful over the next wee while. Every business does need to watch their pennies, but what they're trying to avoid is everyone closing up shop, not actually continuing to buy the things that they need for their businesses to keep running.
Okay, and again, you and I can actually be very clear here and say to people, yes, we're frightened. Yes, there's tightening of belts, and we'll get down to the details of how you do that. But essentially, you're saying to people that don't compromise your business by not going out and having the essential things that you need to actually be able to function. Yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right on point, but we do need to tighten our belts. But at the same time, businesses do need to function. Employees do need tools. They do need the right equipment to be able to do their jobs.
Yeah. And so there's a classic example that everybody is kind of, setting everybody up from home, if that's at all possible. But there will need possibly to be some expenditure to support your staff in doing that, yeah? So really what we're saying is, given that you've got the money in the bank kind of thing, don't be frightened of that you need to resource your staff so they can do the jobs, and that the tax and there are benefits that people will be supporting you, the government will be supporting with you if you do that.
While obviously right now it will be a bit precious on people's cash flow to be buying monitors or computers to enable people to do that. It's more of over the next year, as businesses adapt, and we may need to find different ways to work, going forward. We will need to be probably reinvesting into different ways of working, different technologies, etc.
Okay, so can you elaborate a little bit on the wage subsidy? We know that there's a scheme being put together, and at the moment we're looking at a 30% decline in revenue rules. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so there is probably a little bit of confusion around this rule, and what we understand it to be is the government have said, look, from January 2020 through to June 2020, if at any month during that period, if you have suffered more than 30% decline over the same period last year. So if we see January 2020, we're going to compare with January 2019. If you've suffered a 30% or more decline in your business revenues, and it's a direct result of COVID-19, then you will qualify. Now, it doesn't have to be obviously January, it could be February, it could be March, or it could be a projected month. So I suspect a number of businesses may not have directly felt the impact across January, even into March. But obviously with the closure of many people's businesses over the next 4 weeks, I suspect this is going to tip a lot of people into that category where their projected income, perhaps for April, is going to be well down on the same period last year.
So again, let's just, I don't want to kind of reiterate the obvious, but actually this is the time to reiterate the obvious, right? Don't panic. Again, that's what I'm hearing you say now. Don't panic. This is what's going to happen, and you're not on your own. This is happening to everybody. Yes.
Absolutely.
But that 30% decline will then kick off the wage subsidy scheme, which is going to be incredibly supportive for small businesses. No question about that.
Well, it's definitely going to be supportive. It's not designed to completely cover everyone's wage, and I think the government have been quite clear about this, that they realise that it's I think for a full-time worker or someone working more than 20 hours a week, the subsidy is $585.80. So clearly, a lot of people may be earning more than that.
Yeah.
So part of the wage subsidy is the government have said that there is a declaration part that you need to sign to say that you've done a number of things, and we can talk about that next. But that they're very clear that they would like you to be able to try and maintain those employees at 80% of, or minimum of 80% of their usual wage. Interestingly, though, the Prime Minister was on breakfast, I think it was yesterday morning, and she was quizzed directly about that point. And the way she phrased her answer, it seems like while they would like employers to continue to paying the minimum of 80%, they understand that a lot of employers will not be able to.
And I presume we're specifically talking about kind of the hospitality area is the one that, from my perspective, that those are people that I work with that are very frightened, and they're just, businesses don't have those kind of cash reserves, do they? So it's, yeah. So at least there is something for people for businesses to be able to go to in the first instance. Now we're experiencing cash flow problems with a lot of businesses, especially in regard to loan repayments. With a fundamental lack of funding, they just don't have the money to be able to do it because the money's not coming in the door. What should they do, and who do they need to talk to?
First and foremost, they should be talking to their accountant in conjunction with their banks, and also other advisors that they have on board. But even if they, as part of applying for that wage subsidy, one of the prerequisites is, you must, as a business or as an employer, have done everything you possibly can already to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 on your business. And part of that is obviously talking to your bank. Now, the banks are obviously open for business and are there to support, but some of the messaging that we're getting out from the banks is that they would like businesses to have actually obviously looked at their numbers first, done some cash flow forecasts, made sure that they actually understand, what their position is, what their position is likely to be over the coming few months, what they have actually done to try and minimise some of their expenditure, what they have already tried to do to get some more money into the business. So they don't want people to go to them as their first port of call. They need people or businesses to have actually analysed their own position first, and actually go to the banks with almost like our position anyway is, our clients that we're talking to is, you really need to have done a cash flow for the next 3 months at least to actually understand what it's going to look like for your business, where the holes in your business might be. And what I mean by holes is, where do you think you're going to go into a position where you will have no cash, so that the banks can actually help you in specific ways.
Now, Gina, is there somewhere on BDO's website that people could go to get further advice on this? I mean, again, I how can I put this? I don't want to say that, if you're running a business, you would think you know how to do a cash flow. But let's be clear. It's not about how clever we are. We're all under pressure. We're all not thinking straight. We're all panicking. And when you've got, a huge lease agreement going out, you've got staff to worry about, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to not be functioning at 100%. Yes. So could we advise people to go to the website, and will there be stuff there that people can look at to give them some help as they're doing this?
Yes, absolutely. We've got we've called it a COVID-19 microsite, which is actually, it's on our website. There is some useful information on there. There's an article about some of the practical things you can be doing. Now, it's not going to be an ABC of how to put a cash flow forecast together. And I would be saying to a lot of my clients that they need to be focusing on actually getting their business or keeping their business running. Leave that sort of cash flow side of it to the people that know what they're doing, the likes of ourselves. Now we will have obviously a lot of business owners that are very apt at doing that, and they already do it, and that's great. But we are here to help, and we can probably do it a lot quicker. We can ask the right questions to actually get to the nitty-gritty of what a client might need to do.
So anybody viewing this who is concerned that they don't think at this moment they've got the skills, don't worry about it. Pick up the phone, speak to BDO, and actually you're there to help them walk through this. This is exactly what your skills are.
Absolutely, but most clients or most businesses will already have their own accountants, and their first port of call obviously should be their own accountant, because they will know that business much better.
Okay.
Obviously, we are here if a business feels that they don't or not getting the right support from their existing accountants. We certainly won't turn anyone away, but it's obviously a very pressured time frame that we're all working in, and we'll just do the very best we can by everyone.
Now, one of the questions that seems to be coming in thick and fast, this one, my suppliers are not paying me on time. What can I do about it?
About a week ago, I would have said the usual things that an accountant says, which is obviously you could offer, maybe a discount for your customers to actually start paying you a little, keep paying you on time or paying you a little bit sooner. But I suspect, everyone is going into a bit of panic mode right now, and trying to protect what cash they do have. Now, the unfortunate downside of this is if everyone does that, then no one gets paid. So my advice is, this is why it's quite key to actually do the cash flow forecasting, actually understand, okay, how do I keep my business running? Yes, I'm going to need support from the likes of IRD with some leniency around tax payments. I'm going to need some support from the bank, a little bit more additional cash flow right now. I might need to get some, or talk to my landlord about getting maybe a bit of a reduction in my rent for a short period of time. But I need to continue to pay my bills, because if I don't pay my bills, then other businesses can't continue to pay their bills.
Got the domino effect, yeah? So again, I was certainly the government are giving that message, you're reiterating it, where at all possible, please pay your bills, yeah? Because if we all stop doing it, the whole system's going to fall apart, yeah? And it's painful for everybody. That's the other thing I'd like to say. Everybody is going to find this challenging. But please, be honourable, have integrity, and please pay your bills. Okay. Next question is, I can't afford professional advice. Who could I possibly approach, or how do I approach an accountant or a lawyer? Is there anywhere else anybody can go for professional advice if they don't have the funds to actually buy that service in? Most
businesses would already have an existing accountant or a lawyer, and I guess it's probably more of a fear of many clients at this point in time that I can't talk to my accountant because I can't afford to pay them.
Yes.
Now, I can't speak for every accountant or other professional service provider around, but I know, I'm certainly not going to turn any of my clients away. Yes, there is a cost to obviously us assisting, but we will be looking at what we can do for our clients, certainly around extended payment terms, but also, whether we're able to pass on or offer a discount in any way as well. And I suspect there would be a lot of professional service providers out there that would be willing to do the same.
Absolutely. So again, the core message is have the courage to pick up the phone and speak to the experts that you have relationships with. Yes. Be open, be honest, and be real. Yeah. We're all in this together. I know that's the phrase that's being used, but it's absolutely true. And I think that, again, you need to trust that people are there to help you in the best way that they're able to. Brilliant. Okay, so for businesses that sort of within the last week, they've put together their plan A and it's not working. What next? What should they do? If they thought they had a strategy and it's not working, what do you do? What do you do as far as from an accounting perspective? You put this strategy together, right, this is what we're going to do, but everything is moving and changing so quickly. What do you advise your clients in that kind of situation where they're, really getting overwhelmed with the speed of which everything's changing?
It just comes back to, talking to your advisors, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone. A lot of business owners think they know everything, And that's not a criticism, but you know, a lot of them, they do know their businesses very well. But when they're thrown with, you know, something, adversity or a challenge that they haven't seen before, sometimes you just need someone else to bounce an idea off, or get some external advice around what you possibly could do. You know, we're certainly advising our clients, you know, look at plan A, but what's plan B and what's plan C? So work through best case scenario, but also, okay, well, what if that doesn't work? Or what if you can't achieve best case scenario? What does middle case scenario and what does worst case scenario look like? Because you possibly will need to plan for the worst case scenario and hope for better.
From your last answer, that leads us perfectly into the last question, which is, you know, nobody wants to let staff go. But if you're looking at those figures and you're really not able to make this work, or you believe you're not able to make this work, what are some of the solutions that I should be investigating? If I'm looking at this, how should I be looking at it from an accountant's perspective?
Every business owner will need to be reviewing the business fundamentals. So as a business, you know, do I have a viable business model going forward? Well, none of us, we're all crystal ball gazing. None of us really know what life's going to look like tomorrow, let alone, you know, 4 weeks time or 6 months time. But and this is where I think talking to your advisors is key. It's really critical to actually being able to look at what are all the options available to you. Every business is quite different. You know, if you're in a retail sector or hospitality at the moment, obviously things are going to be quite challenging because you literally have to close up shop. But one thing which we haven't touched yet or talked about yet, which just came out yesterday, is the government has come out with another package specifically designed for SME businesses. So if you've got turnover between 250,000 and 80 million, the government is backing a financial support package where banks will be able to lend up to $500,000 to solvent businesses. Now, I stress that word solvent. So they're not looking to make loans to businesses that were perhaps in trouble before COVID-19 came about. They're looking at businesses that, you know, you were a viable business and, you know, you potentially can see a way through this, but you're obviously struggling right now because of the impact of COVID-19. So this package is backed, I think, 80% by the government, 20% by banks. The funds are actually lent by banks, but up to $500,000 to see businesses through. Now, we don't have much more detail than that yet. The banks are yet to come out with what the criteria might look like. But that is obviously a bit of good news for businesses coming through. There's also announced for homeowners a 6-month mortgage holiday.
Yeah.
So for those that are quite significantly impacted by COVID-19 and are really worried about not being able to make mortgage payments, there is some relief available there. Again, we don't quite know what the qualification criteria might be for that, and we're just waiting more detail.
Okay. Look, Gina, I mean, you know, you and I could sit here for hours. I mean, there are so many questions to ask, and I hope that we're going to get the opportunity to speak again, because I think as this progresses, you're going to have some more stories in real time of clients that you're working with, and we're going to be able to share experiences, and hopefully other people are going to be inspired and have ideas from that. But Gina, you know, thank you very much for joining us. That your practical and professional skills are needed, but it's also an empathy and a need to be able to support your clients in a way you never thought you'd ever have to, because there's a lot of very, very frightened people out there. So thank you. Thank you very much for being at the end of the phone. Look after yourself and your family, and we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks very much for joining us.